Hi, welcome back to Burning River Bushcraft. Today we're going to be doing a review on a carving knife, the Mora 106. So normally in the summer I do a little bit more carving, so I just happen to have a lot of my carving stuff out. I'm doing a couple carving videos, so I thought I would review some of the carving knives that I own and like to use a lot. And we're going to be starting off with the Mora 106. So if you want to take a second to subscribe, ring the bell to be notified of my latest videos. Go ahead and leave comments, like the video if this is something you'd like to see. You can also find me on Instagram at Burning River Bushcraft. I'm on Facebook as well as my blog, burningriverbushcraft.com. So the Mora 106 is, in my opinion, this is the classic length sloyd knife. This is about a 3-inch blade. So this size knife is one of my favorites. I prefer the 3-inch. I've got several of the Mora carving knives. I think most of the Mora carving knives I've owned. They're great knives, great starter knives, but there are world-class carvers that use this knife right here. So this is a knife you're not really going to outgrow. Your taste just may change. So the steel on this knife is a laminated steel, which means it's got a higher carbon steel center sandwiched between softer steel, so it makes it easier to carve. This knife I've actually got a couple rolls in, so you can see I've got a couple little nicks in the blade, and the primary reason for that is not any fault of the knife itself. This is not my main knife anymore, but I really prefer this length knife, so I will grab this knife. I carry several when I'm out carving, but this knife does some of the more rough work. So when I'm harvesting trees right out of the woods and doing some green woodworking, a lot of times there's bark. The bark's got dirt in it sometimes. So to do some of the more rougher work, I will grab this knife because it's completely viable. But like I said, it's just not one of my main knives right now. So it's probably one of the reasons that I've got that rolling is because this is a laminated steel. But it's easy to sharpen. When you're just starting out, having a sharp knife is probably one of the most important things and one of the most underrated things. You could have a knife that's razor sharp out of the box, but if you can't maintain that edge, that does you no good in the long run. You can see my finger right here. This is not blood. That's just spray paint. I was doing another project before I came over here to shoot this video. But the steel, the size of the steel makes this great. I like the fact that it's a skinny blade. It's got that great taper to it. So as far as grips go, I really prefer this style Mora grip to all the others. I think Mora makes a 120, which is like the 2-inch blade with a finger guard. Finger guards are always in my way. I've got the plastic handled version of this as well. I'll be doing another review on that shortly. And this is the preferred grip. This is a very neutral grip. There's certain things I don't like about it, but it's just me being picky. This grip is perfectly sufficient. Like I said, there are world-class carvers that never use anything but these knives. The nice thing about this grip, probably one of my favorite things about it, besides the fact that it's not in your way, you can switch positions, switch hand positions seamlessly, is that if you're into the Moras and you have them all, I think I have maybe 4 or 5 Mora carving knives, they're all interchangeable. So if I picked up my 120, the smaller version of this for a reason, or if I picked up my spoon knife, the grip's the same. So it's some consistency for the whole carving system. So the Mora does come with a plastic sheath. Whenever you get one of these sheaths, you're like, what the heck am I going to do with this thing? This is actually not that bad of a sheath. This is not the kind of knife that I'm going to carry with me. This is not a belt knife in my opinion. With the 2 holes like this, I like this a little bit better than the single button slot like some of the older Moras had. One terrible bad habit people will get and develop is they will be carving and then they'll just set their knife down, and then they'll carve a little more and they'll set their knife down. For one thing, knives could get lost or damaged, but for the other thing, I could set it somewhere and someone could come and bump into the knife or maybe sit on this tree stump that's right beside me. So for safety purposes, putting your knife back in your sheath is great. It's going to maintain the sharpness when I carry this in my carving kit. as well as if I was in a camp setting around other people, I could wear this around my neck. Not that I'm going to just wander around the woods all day with the carving knife around my neck, but for the purposes of what I'm doing, I can get this out of my carving kit, put it on, and then take it on and off. Now, I don't always do that, but that is a great option when you're around other people. So as far as cost goes, I think this is one of the more expensive Mora carvers. I don't remember exactly what this thing cost, but I know there was several other cheaper options, and I think I did that at the start of when I started this. I started with just like a Mora #1, so the red handle, non-laminated blade carbon steel knife, which is a little bit longer than this, which is not that much of an issue, but it's got a different blade profile. And I do really like this skinny tip. This skinny tip lets me use this knife when a lot of times a knife this size would just be too big for a certain task. I would recommend the 106 over a classic #1 or something like that if carving was your main goal. I started with a Mora #1. I think I had a Mora #2. I had several options that were more inexpensive than this, but it's only a few dollars more. I would jump into the full-size carving knife like this. So disadvantages of this knife is the length. A 3-inch knife seems really long when you're doing smaller projects, but it's not anything you can't work around. I view myself as a bushcrafter or woodsman over a straight-up wood carver. I went to a couple local wood carving meetups, I guess. There's a local wood carving group, and my knife looked like a broadsword compared to what they had. They had the flex cuts and all the fancy knives that almost look like scalpels. So again, we're going to get the same thing done. We're just going about it a different way. So I would rather learn to use a longer knife like this, because these skills correlate over when I'm trying to carve something with a 4.5 or 5-inch more bushcraft or survival style knife. So this handle's fine. As I mentioned, I prefer a more ergonomic handle for myself. I like to carve my own handles, and I prefer facets on them. It just lets me index the knife better, because with a barrel shaped grip like this, if I am point up or point down, I can't tell, or edge up, edge down. So I can't index the knife and feel. I give a little bit of twist when I'm doing a scoop cut sometimes, but that's not that big a deal for me. I don't need any extra leverage per se. It's just handy if I'm carving at night or under low light like a campfire, that I always have the edge out. It's something that I try to work all my knives into some way to index the knife to which side is which. So the barrel handle does not work that well for me for that. So overall, I would definitely recommend getting a Mora 106. This is the classic sloyd knife. The 120 is probably more popular than this, but for my game and what I like to do, I prefer the longer knife. This is a little bit skinnier. It works better for me, choking it up and making it a shorter knife when I need to. And then I have the ability to grab a normal hammer grip and use the whole length of the blade if I'm trying to just reduce stock quickly, like I do a lot of times with this particular knife. I should point out that the Mora 106 is also available in a blank. So what I did with this is a Mora 106 bare blade. And then this is just a piece of black walnut, and I carved the handle to fit my hand a little bit better. So this just has facets on it, so I can feel what direction the knife is. It lets it lock into my hand a little bit better. And as far as the blade and the handling, it's identical. That also lets me differentiate between a couple knives. Like I mentioned, this one's starting to get nicked up a little bit because this is more of my rough use knife. So I'll rip through bark, through green wood, through things that a normal carving knife wouldn't necessarily excel at, and this one doesn't either. And then I can switch knives and the blade is identical, and this one stays razor sharp, and I can do more of my fine cuts with this. Now, the grip that I made for this has changed several times. This is like the second generation of this same grip. I just keep carving it down and working on it, and I'll sand it or rasp it till it feels better to me. So I've tried a couple different designs, and this is probably not going to be my last one for certain, but it just lets you have a more custom carving knife. So the classic sloyd knife, if you're going to get pre-built, you can just order this thing right off Amazon. I'll put a link in my store, my Amazon store, to this. It'll be in the link below. You can pull this right out of the box and start carving awesome projects right from the get-go. If you get a little more ambitious and like the knife but just wish it was a little bit better for your particular needs, or just fancier, go ahead and pick up the blade as well. It makes a great project. I've got a couple videos where I made stick tang knives like this. I've got another one coming out shortly. I haven't started that project yet, but it's on my list. But essentially, again, same knife, same performance, just with a little tweak and a personalized option. So hopefully you enjoyed this review of the Mora 106. I've got several more carving tool reviews coming up here, so hopefully you enjoy them. Leave me a comment below. Till next time, this has been Jamie Boggs from Burning River Bushcraft. See you soon.